Hey, Hoop fans out there, welcome to another Hoops Lounge Hangout. This week we have a big, exciting show for you as well as a special guest. So on tap, we have our version of Mount Rushmore. For those who don't know what that is, that's the top 4 players in the NBA all time. So we're going to break down what we think counts, qualifies, and who didn't make the list. After that, we have a little trade deadline talk. So trade deadline just passed. We want to see what your thoughts, our thoughts are of who moved and what made sense and what didn't. And a lot of players who were expected to move but didn't. After that, of course, we have Marc with his Naismith moment, giving his basketball knowledge to you with a little Canadian twist. And then at the end, a very special In the Post, where we're having kind of a sneaker off with our special guest. So first, we'll get right into the contestants in today's Hoops Lounge Hangout. My name's Phil. As always, I have my co-host, Mr. Marc.
Hi, yeah, so LeBron thinks he deserves to be on Mount Rushmore. Once again, the king sticks his nose in the wrong place.
And our special guest for the day, Mr. Tony Stark.
Boys, I think I'm ready for today's post-off a little bit later. Sending off some of my nicest Jordans ever. Thank you very much.
Ooh, getting it going, getting it going. And the other member, Mr. Mota.
Hey, what's up, guys? I've heard that LeBron beat the OKC last week. It's getting really tough for the MVP ladder, but we'll discuss that on another show.
Especially with a broken nose, right? It's tough to be pretty. Although maybe that's his case for Mount Rushmore, because we all know. Anyways, we'll go past that. Okay, guys. So when we're talking about Mount Rushmore in the NBA, we're talking about the all-time greats. We're not just talking about the best shooting guards. We're not just talking about the best players right now. We're talking about guys like Larry, the Legends, Wilt Chamberlain, Michael Jordan. The list could go on. Marc, maybe I'll kick it off with you on maybe your top 4, and any guys feel free to kick in if you agree, disagree, or anything in between.
Yeah, sure. I mean, I have to give credit where credit's due. The term Mount Rushmore comes from Bill Simmons. I mean, obviously it's something sketched in the mountains of the Dakotas. That's the presidents of the U.S., the 4 best ever. But Bill Simmons kind of has used it to express his top 4 of different things in pop culture and sports history. So he coined that a few years ago. And then all of a sudden, this weekend at All-Star Weekend, Bill Russell and LeBron and these guys kind of, everyone putting up their own lists. So, I mean, for me, there's 3 things that are most important, most vital to being on a Mount Rushmore. One, it's having a sustained high level of talent over an extended period of time. Number 2, it's winning titles. And number 3, it's how you impact, how you change the game of basketball. So for me, my top 4, Michael Jordan is the no-brainer. I mean, if he's not on your top 4, I don't want to be your friend. So my number 2.
I'm glad to know that's how we get out of our friendship.
Okay.
Yeah.
Quick fix the Marc.
Rules right away already.
Okay, so my number 2 and my number 3, they have to go hand in hand. They've had a symbiotic relationship all through the 1980s. If you have one, you have to have the other. So Larry Bird and Magic Johnson, they very much changed the game of basketball and helped grow it as an international brand that will forever be a television audience, will always be there because of them. And then my number 4 was by far the hardest. I mean, I thought about all the guys through history, and then, talking about titles, this man won 11 titles in 13 years, and he forever changed the game. Being one of the first black superstars of the game, he also coached the game and has always been an ambassador of the game. For me, I have to have Bill Russell on there because he absolutely did it all at every level of basketball, high school, college, Olympic, NBA. And so he's my number 4. And if I had to pick a number 5, it's an outside-the-box solution. I would put Dr. James Naismith on there because if he's not there, we're not having this conversation right now.
Although you lose the most dunk competitions if you really had it down.
And go Canada for that.
So I'll throw it back at you because we want a couple outside opinions. I know we've been talking about this. Who do you got your top 4? You agree, disagree? You want to throw mud in Marc's face for this one, or are you going to toe the line?
Was it to me? Is the question was to me or to Tony?
Was to Tony this time.
Oh, sorry, I didn't hear you. It's okay. Actually, I looked at it 2 ways when I read the quote. For me, to consider somebody a great player, I had to watch them play because I feel like I can't call someone a good player, a great player, if I didn't watch them play because I think you need to see their ups, their downs, how they went. But if you go historically, my 4 is pretty much with Marc. I got Wilt Chamberlain, you got Michael Jordan, I do have Magic Johnson, and Bill Russell has Jordan, Russell, Chamberlain, and Johnson are my 4. You can't go past the 11 rings. Jordan changed the game both on and off the court. I think Chamberlain dominated the game when he was in his prime. And Magic Johnson, I was flipping if I had Bird in and out, but I watched more Johnson than Bird, and I think Johnson revolutionized the point guard position, especially at his size. And remember, he played center for a while. So those are my four. And then when I was thinking about, and that's from a historical point of view, but from people like playing right now, I don't know, I just find it difficult to say you're the greatest of all time if I've never watched you play.
No, it makes sense. It's
that is very true. I actually took what actually Tony did. I have to watch them. I mean, Bill Russell is definitely one of the greatest of all time, but I never seen him play. I've seen the tapes and all of those, and he didn't have that impact, even emotional impact on me. So I didn't grow up watching those guys. But my Mount Rushmore is going to be a little bit different. I'm gonna go with Magic Johnson, obviously. Michael Jordan. Obviously, there's nothing to say here, but for those two, they just changed the game and how the pace of the game and everything. The last two, you guys are going to be a little bit surprised, but I grew up watching a lot of Lakers, and I put Shaq in there.
I thought I actually agreed with you a little bit because I think he was so dominating as a center that you could actually make the argument that he's in that Mount Rushmore.
Exactly. So he's a guy that actually made a lot of teams struggle defensively to play against him. And then my last one is just a guy that I perfected my game to how he plays, and it's
perfected your game, of course. Yes.
Yeah.
We're talking about your on-court game, right? Not the off-court game. We're talking about
by himself in the
park. We're good.
So
I guess little 5-year-old just wants to play.
You know how I love everything about the international ball, and I just don't necessarily always focus on the NBA, and I'm gonna go with also my last pick would be Dirk Nowitzki. This guy just changed the power forward position, and going from a guy who's all the guys are just dunking, rebounding, he made an actual tall guy shoot from threes, twos, and winning his first title a couple of years ago. So that puts him on the top of the list. And I grew up watching him, so it's a little bit of an emotional decision, not necessarily a rational decision. So I would go with that.
No, I like that.
What about you, Phil?
So I got to end up. We got to start off with this. First of all, Mr. Bill Russell definitely making it. I just want to read this quote quickly. Thank you for leaving me off your Mount Rushmore. I'm glad you did. Basketball is a team game. It's not for individual honors. I won back-to-back state championships in high school, back-to-back NBA championships in college. I won an NBA championship my first year in the league, an NBA championship my last year in the league, and 9 in between. That, Mr. James, is etched in stone. So, obviously, Mr. Bill Russell making the list for me, because how are you going to get off this list if you're wearing that many rings? I mean, at the end of the day, this is sports, and you're counted for your wins. So, Mr. Russell definitely makes it. Number 2, I got to put Jordan on that list a little bit because, obviously, he's on everyone's list, and I've seen him play, saw how dominant he was, and to me it's just kind of a no-brainer. I haven't seen a player be able to dominate that many facets of the game, being on the defensive end, ball handling, rebounding, leadership, clutch. He just has everything, and at the end of the day, outside of his memorable baseball career, I think he'll go down as one of the best athletes ever. Number 3, a bit of a weird one, but I don't know why it hits me, Dr. J.
Okay.
Actually, really, I've been feeling him for a while, and I feel he doesn't get enough love. Dr. J. Julius Erving, to me, makes my Mount Rushmore, and it hurts me to say it, but I'm actually going to agree with Mota on Shaq. I thought I was completely going to get you guys, and then Mota pulls up the big man. It hurts my soul a bit to say this, but exactly what he said. He's been one of the most dominant players, because to me it was kind of a toss-up between Wilt Chamberlain and Shaq, right? Now, maybe I like Wilt Chamberlain's off-the-court story better than Shaq's, but this is a story about the actual production. And so we're talking about that, the years he played, no one could stop him. Like they made up entire plays like Hack-a-Shaq just for him. So because of that, I think he just has way too much talent. And I know I'm leaving off both Bird and Magic, but this is tough. I mean, it's
very tough.
all
To pick four
time.
players, it's very, very tough.
Just by principle, I can't give anybody on my Mount Rushmore who started in Kazan. I just can't do it. Like, I just can't do it. I won't do it. You know what I mean? I love him as a player, but man, just stay off the movie set. We're fine.
Touche, Tony. Touche.
Yeah, but I think he wanted to join the acting greats of like Hulk Hogan and The Rock with all their little, all these guys have these movies where they're these big dudes and they just play like the brute,
Right.
And then they have these movies where they act with 2-year-olds. Like every Schwarzenegger, they've all done this. I don't know.
Well, we all can't star in Space Jam. You know what I mean? Like, Jordan had his time on Space, and now they're talking about LeBron doing Space Jam 2. I know we're a little off topic, but they're talking about LeBron doing Space Jam 2, which I think is pretty funny.
Well, I mean, hopefully that movie has a couple years in production because I'm waiting for that hairline to come back a bit to match with Jordan's. I feel right now he's not quite up to
the
standard.
hairline joke again. But,
Come on, it could be Space Jam. It'll be Space Jam 2 provided by Propecia.
Oh my god.
Oh, that is quite funny. But Phil, I'm actually surprised that you didn't bring any name that nobody knows as your all-time favorite. You always like to pick the underdogs, like some guys that play in Detroit.
I thought that Dr. J was a little bit of that.
So yeah, I'm quite surprised that you didn't bring, I don't know, Giannis Antetokounmpo or something.
Guy who's been in the league a minute.
How did Bill Cartwright not make your list? I don't get it.
Well, it was between him and Bill Weddington. I have this thing, but like it was him, Weddington, Russell. I'm like, I have to pick up Bill on this list.
Right, I hear you.
I guess I'll go Russell because he has a little more going for him as in talent, but I don't know if that'll happen. But so. Are there any names on anyone's list that surprised anyone?
I like Dirk. He made European basketball relevant in the eyes of the NBA. I never even thought of that. That's a really good pick, Mota. I like that one.
The Tony Kukoc was there before, but Dirk made what European basketball what it is now. So he's a big contributor to bringing in a lot of European players into the NBA. Because they started believing in that style of playing.
Yeah. I mean, if there was one player that kind of was tough for me to leave off, actually, was Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. Yeah. Just being such a dominant force, revolutionizing how a center can score with the skyhook. Like for me, he was up there with Shaq, but I was like, Shaq, just because of that fact there that I have seen him play. And there's always that argument about competition, right? People say years ago they were less athletic, they were less tall, and to a certain degree it was true, but you have to take these guys in the context of what they could do, because it's not their fault that they weren't being D'd up by LeBron James or Lance Stevenson. So against their competition, they were producing, but I don't know. I think there were, like, if you look on the list of even top 50 players, a bunch of guys who could easily have a conversation. I mean, George Gervin, Elvin Hayes, there's a lot of good names, but at the end of the day, what do you guys think is the number one qualifier? Like if you have to say one factor that really puts it in as this has to get checked off to be on this list, what would you guys say?
Well, like I said before, it has to be a sustained level of high talent. You can't have done it for a few years. You have to have done it for a decade or so, and everyone in the league has to respect you for your level of talent.
Yeah, I would put it as a game changer. He needs to be a game changer for his own position. Mm-hmm. So you see Magic Johnson changed the game for point guard. He brought in that flair, that style. Michael Jordan, just changed the game, period. Shaq was a dominant force in down the post, and Dirk was a new type of power forward. So that's the most important thing, is that you brought in a new style that nobody ever saw before.
I think it's rings. I think it's rings and being a focal point of the offense that won that ring, or defense for Bill Russell's case. I think that if you're a dominant force and you're winning rings, and you can have all the individual records you want, but if you've got 11 rings and you are a major part of those 11 rings, you have to be considered in I think LeBron, as great as a player as he is, I don't know if at the end of the thing he'll be on most Mount Rushmores. He's need a couple more titles, at least in my opinion. Look at Kobe. No one's actually even mentioned Kobe yet. Kobe's got how many? 6 rings now? And he's one of the best scorers I've ever seen. And nobody's mentioned him on any sort of Mount Rushmore.
I think we will get into a really heated debate, Tony, about Kobe being on Mount Rushmore just because his first 3 rings was because of a guy who was on my
Right,
list.
that's on your list. Exactly. And I agree.
So-
I don't think Kobe will ever make my list, but, look at him. He's got rings. He's got great scoring and talent. And he's one of those guys like Jordan. You give him the ball, and there's a really good chance it's going in.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
Shall
so
we,
the
shall, we,
qualifiers.
shall we dare and say Vince Carter might be also, since you're a Toronto fan?
Oh,
Oh God!
No.
so hurtful, Mark. Why are you doing
I don't know what that about. Yeah.
Okay, so technically the qualifiers are sustained excellence, winning rings, and doing interesting things in your position that kind of change the game. Could we not put Robert Ory?
Big shot Bob?
No.
He's a glue guy. No.
No, but technically he fits those, right? So this
No.
No.
is an underdog. I had to think what you guys were all
He
thinking
is.
and put one that does.
He's not even a Hall of Famer.
He's the
he has more
luckiest
rings
guy
than most Hall of
on the
Famers.
planet. He is the
doing it
luckiest
for
guy
more
on the
years than
planet.
most Hall of Famers. We need
He
to
is the
rule.
luckiest guy on the planet. That's for sure. He gets on teams that actually were about to win. He gets on the Rockets when.
Are you talking about Derek Fisher now, or still Robert Ory?
Robert.
Okay.
Yeah, but you know what? It takes a lot of stones to make those shots. You can't have those shots that he made weren't by luck. The man can shoot, and you want to say anything you want about Derek Fisher, but he's still in the league for a reason because he can still play. And remember that turnaround jumper that got it for the Lakers a few years back. So I know everyone loves to hate on Big Shot Bob, but they call him that for a reason, right?
I know, and that's why he makes the I'm lucky to be here, and I have some talent in Mount Rushmore.
Hey, just like Chris Bosh in Miami.
It still hurts, man. We should make an all Toronto Raptors fan hated team one day, and it could be this easy sweep. It wouldn't even take that long. Okay, so next, so we've been talking about Mount Rushmore. Now we were just talking about the trade deadline that went past. Toronto Raptors, besides the Colo or whoever they picked up there, not many moves. Tony, I know you're a big Raptors fan. Are you surprised Toronto didn't work its magic and try to maybe move Lowry, some of his assets into other players? Or?
No, I think like you were talking about a little bit off air before the show, that Lowry's probably closing in on a 4-year deal. And so I think he's played his way onto his team. He's played his way onto a contract. The one thing I was hoping, but I wasn't expecting, was Grievous Vasquez has not fit in with this team since he's come over. I think he's been the weakest of the 4 Sacramento players. So I wasn't too surprised Masai didn't do anything because he's still trying to find out what kind of team this is. Mm-hmm. And this could all be a 1-year fluke. Like a couple years ago when they won the Atlantic, and the next season, boom, they were done. So I think Masai did the right thing by sitting back. I would have liked them to get one more scorer for the bench because I think they don't have that go-to professional shooter. John Salmons hasn't exactly been that way, but I'm not too surprised they haven't done it. I wish they would have got a scorer, but that's about it.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. So, of the trades that actually did go down, I guess the biggest name would have had to have been, unfortunately, Danny Granger. So, we were talking off air, and we've been talking past instances of the Bynum effect. This is this new kind of term we're coining. And maybe, Mark, I know you're a big advocate for this one. I'll turn it back. The Pacers, Danny Granger being sent out for Evan Turner and another power forward. Do you think it's a good move? I mean, Turner was averaging 17 points a game. He's younger, better defender. Does this make sense for the Pacers?
I just love the Bynum effect in general. So the day after that happened, Lance Stevenson fell on his tailbone, and then Paul George has his issues off court, and then we have the Bynum landing with the team and not having his physical, and now I just have a feeling this team is going to crash and burn, and Larry Bird is going to pull his hair out. So I think Granger is going to maybe end up. You were mentioning to me the other day he might end up on Miami, and then he'll eat him up in the playoffs. I just see this as horrible karma and a bad cloud all around, and I just want to see how it plays out.
Well, he's super angry, right? He even came out on camera basically saying, I kind of feel disrespected. I'm a little surprised he didn't stay. I mean, he was a veteran. They liked him there. He had an expiring deal. They could have just let him go, signed Lance Stevenson at the end. They needed bench scoring. He provided that. But I guess they wanted the younger guys right away. Now, if we're talking about Danny Granger, Mota, maybe I'll put this your way. Let's just say he gets cut by the 76ers. Where do you think is his ideal landing spot?
Um, it's I would go if he gets bought out. I think Danny Granger would fit in a team that can put him in a position where he can become a spot up shooter because he doesn't have the athleticism anymore to create his own shot. So I would say but I would still keep him in the East because he doesn't have the tenacity to play in the West. So I would go with Miami just because they got him out. They got out of Roger
Although he's
Mason.
not going to start. I mean, come on.
No, he's not going to start. No, for sure. And Miami need that type of guy who can just score threes with Battier and Ray Allen. So I think it
Besides
Miami would be a good
Jones,
fit.
besides Richard Lewis, yes, of course.
Yeah, exactly.
Just
So
more of these guys who are just gonna stink up the bench while they're just sitting there waiting to play musical chairs.
exactly.
So Miami's I think makes most sense, like just to get back at Indiana.
He would fit right in. I think he's the type of guy that can position himself well, and LeBron and Chalmers can find him when
Yeah.
it comes to his threes. So if he can still shoot, because we didn't see that much of him this year, so we'll see about that. But I don't think the Sixers are gonna buy him out. I'm not sure. I think they're gonna keep him.
I think it's respect they have to.
Yeah,
I don't know,
just because they're also in a rebuilding mode, and you still need a couple of guys that actually know how the league functions. So it's in on that team. Mark always keeps on saying that you need a little bit of veterans in your team, even though he's not technically a veteran, but with all the injuries that he has, he's playing like a veteran. So, so that's
Poor guy.
yeah. So that's my 2 cents about the thing.
All right, Tony. Like I'm sure you've got another team or another name on the tip of your tongue. If you want to see Danny Granger, come on. We want to see this guy start and change the fortunes for some team out there.
Well, yeah,
What
but
team do you want to see Granger going to?
actually, I'm going to go a little. I think I would like him to go to the West. I want to see him win San Antonio or Oklahoma, because I think Oklahoma's bench is kind of an issue that no one really talks about. I think San Antonio would be good for him because he is a spot-up shooter, and they have pretty good ball movement in San Antonio. So I think in Popovich's system, as a spot-up shooter, I think Granger is probably kind of really suits in that. I know like his consistency is a little down, especially with his age and his injuries. But I'd like to see him in the West. But what I'm really interested to see is Evan Turner now playing in Indiana, because they run that ball a lot through Paul George. And then now with Evan Turner coming in, I think they can actually work around that and put the ball through him to get to Paul George and kind of give him a bit of a different look, something that Miami hasn't seen yet.
And that makes a lot of sense. And to me, the justification was that they had no one really to back up Lance Stevenson. They had all these 3-4s, these forwards who can play that position. They're still loaded there. But when Lance went out, who's going to play the 2? Who's going to guard the 2? It always had to be Paul George.
Right.
So we want to play small ball. I mean, Evan Turner allows them the 2-3 as opposed to the 3-4. To me, that plus the defense and the youth, that's kind of why they did it. I still don't think it was a great trade for them. I still would have just stood pat. But, I mean, you named 2 great teams that I actually thought. I was talking to my friend last night. He brought up OKC because a front court of Ibaka, Granger, and Durant at times would be destructive. Now, the one team I want to throw at all you guys that people we're talking about are the Clippers. How do the Clippers not get mentioned here? I mean, he only has to beat out Dudley. It would be Chris Paul, him, and Blake Griffin, and wouldn't that propel them to that next level?
Jared Dudley can play defense,
Yeah.
which Danny Granger can't. And what the Clippers need someone who can pick up the slack and play defense. So that's why I actually thought about the Spurs to Tony. But I just don't see him fit in the West. That's the thing. He's a guy who his style of play is typically an Eastern Conference
Such a
guy.
good OKC guy though, because that front court can't score outside.
But don't you find that a lot of everything's so specialized now? You got like the Jason Caponos, you got Steve Novaks. They're in to shoot threes. You got Danny Granger, who can. The coaching staffs are so good these days that they can take any player. Okay, you can shoot. We're going to put you in positions. We're going to, strategize around you to make you that shooter. I think no one. And when you say he's just an East player, I don't think you can make that argument anymore.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. I think it's interesting, especially for the Spurs. I mean, the Spurs can take any player and make him work the system. So it's that thing that can work for it. But I agree with you. It's getting more and more a specialized game where you have guys who just play defense and get paid for just playing defense or shooting threes, and we're seeing that on a bunch of teams. So maybe we'll see him in the West. But for now, it's just I look at the defense and who's going to be playing against him, and I just don't see him putting up big numbers in that thing.
Okay, well that makes sense. And the last question while we touch on free agency, just quick. Does Ron Artest, Metta World Peace, have a home after the Knicks cut him?
No, I don't want him to have one.
Yeah.
Buy him an RV. Buy him an RV. You can drive around everywhere.
There are people out there, you want World Peace to be homeless? All right.
I didn't say homeless. I said the guy gets paid $8 to $9 million a year, so I don't think he's gonna be homeless anytime soon. But
have you heard of a guy called Terrell Sprewell? Have you heard? I can't feed my family. Mark, do you think Metta World Peace lands somewhere, or is he just done now?
Yeah, the Arena Football League.
That would be funny, actually, if he takes up, because everyone's saying LeBron could play tight end. Imagine he just does this.
Yeah.
And Tony, is Metta World Peace going to be a loss to the league, or are we happy to say goodbye? Because at this point, he's not really producing.
I think Ron Artest would have been a loss to the league. I think Metta World Peace is just whatever. To be honest, I could care less. Like, he hasn't really been a significant player for the last few years, and his defense is whatever. If a team wants to pay him for the minimum salary, sure. And Mark was saying the Arena Football League. I think he'll be the commissioner of the Lingerie Football League. I think that's more like his style. So I could care less if Ron Artest is around.
Yeah, no, it's like the one place that would sign him this year is the land of misfit toys, which are the New York Knicks. It seems to kind of make sense there.
Right, and he's yeah, exactly.
But anyways, so we got to move on now to our Naismith moment with Mr. Marc Griffin, where he breaks down some Canadian knowledge on you and us, and we get to learn and sit back. So, Mark, what do you have on tap for us this week?
Yeah, today I'm going to talk about Olivier Hanlan, who is from Gatineau, Quebec, who plays for Boston College. Pulled off some history this week when they beat Syracuse University, who was on a 25-game winning streak and the best team in the country right now, led by Tyler Ennis. And just a few facts about Olivier Hanlan. He spoke French exclusively till high school. Went to basically the prep school his last few years of high school and learned English. And he speaks flawless English now. It's amazing. He was ACC Freshman of the Year in a very probably the most difficult conference in college basketball right now with all these teams like Duke and then UNC there. He had a 41-point game in the March Madness last year. And so against Syracuse, he had 20 points, 3 assists, 3 boards in overtime in the win. He had a clutch shot to send it in overtime, and then he hit a 3 in overtime, basically to win the game. And this isn't a crazy stat about how important this game was. Boston College is one of 3 teams in NCAA history, the history of college basketball, to have a below 500 record and beat the best team in college basketball on the road. So they won the game in Syracuse. The last time this happened, guys, was 1955. So it's absolutely huge, and he led the charge. So check out Olivier Hanlan. He's from Quebec, and he's going to be a star. He'll be in the NBA soon. And Steve Nash is going to have a lot of issues trying to figure out who's going to be point guard on the national team because they got so many guys coming out. So check out Olivier Hanlan.
Very nice. Well, thank you. Now it's time for this week's little battle royale. This time I'm bowing out. I'm tagging in my tag team partner, Mr. Tony Stark. So Mr. Mark is going to be the official mediator of this one. This is Mota versus Tony. We got some shoe talk. Mark, you want to lead us off?
Yeah, so I've never been a sneakerhead, but Mota put up a great article on hoopslounge.com about life as a sneakerhead and the history of being a sneakerhead. And it turns out that Tony as well is a sneakerhead. So in the post this week is dedicated to these 2 sneakerheads. And basically we've got 3 questions for each of them. I've got my 24-second clock, and I'm going to ask them to answer their questions. And they've never seen the questions. These are live on the air. So we're going to start with Tony, our guest today. And so your first question is, what are your Mount Rushmore of sneakers?
Mount Rushmore sneakers. The original Air Jordans from 1985. The Celtic OGs that I bought 2 years ago. Also, I really, really liked I don't remember what year it was, but it was the white Jordans with the black undertow And finally, I just picked them up a couple days ago. I got 6 seconds left. I told that to my girlfriend a few times. The new Air Jordans that I picked up, those are my Rushmores.
Wow, you're going only old school here, but yeah, nice picks, nice picks. You're going.
I love vintage. I think vintage is, for me, it's like I'm not a fan of the new shoes. And Mota, quickly, the new LeBrons, can't stand them.
Oh yeah.
And Mota, your response?
I would go with the Barclays, the Fomposites, the Air Jordan ones, the original ones, the 1985, the band edition, that's for sure. They're just amazing. The Air Jordan, the Concords, so comfortable, and the He Got Game.
Right.
Yeah, those are my Mount Rushmore.
Okay, and so next question is for Mota. Here's your first question. Will another shoe ever equal the Air Jordan legacy?
Oh, definitely not. There's no, even if LeBron is that good, there's no player that can bring the legacy. I spoke about it in my article. They just brought in a new culture that was just dominated by the Air Jordan. So I think there's no way that any other shoe. And sorry, Kanye, you're not gonna be there.
And Tony, your response?
I think that never. I think the Jordans are the only shoe that are as popular on the court as they are off the court. Other than the Adidas from Run DMC, which made it into music, I think Jordan sets the standard for what's good on shoes, the prices, and also the people they bring in to endorse that shoe. I think nobody will come close to that one.
Okay, and so Tony, your second question is, what is the biggest sneaker from 2013?
Now, don't hate on me, all right? But the Yeezus 2 is probably, from my standpoint, the biggest sneaker of the year. And I'll tell you why. Because it is the most hyped, other than the new Jordans, it's the most hyped one. And people, as much as I don't appreciate Kanye and his attitude, that is the one that gets the most buzz that's crossed over for both sports and mainstream. So that's the biggest one for me.
To me, it's just the strategy behind the Yeezys, but I'm gonna go with the Concords Low, the inverted colors, white and black. I have them and they're so comfortable. And actually, we did the photo shoot with them, and they bring in that Space Jam look, you know. So it's fun to have.
It's good to see that the low sneakers are actually coming back, because for a while it was all about the high tops.
Exactly.
All right. So Mota, your second question. What sneaker did you first see and have to buy?
Ooh, I would go with the Son of Mars, the Air Jordans. Those were, because of the commercial, because of everything. I just had to have them. I wanted to buy them so bad, and I asked even my mom to get to. I don't want anything for the year. Just get me those. So these are my top one.
Tony?
The original Patrick Ewing shoe. The black one with the velour and the big 33 on the tongue. I saw them. I wanted them. My brother had them. Had it, it's not even a word. My brother had them. And those were the one shoe that I saw and I really wanted to get, and I had them a little while later. But that one, as soon as I saw it, as much as he sweat on the court and it was a little off-putting, I still needed this shoe.
Yeah, they're not comfortable to play ball.
Not at all.
I don't know how they played basketball for so long with the old school shoes.
Right.
Because they're not comfortable at all.
It kind of just feels like a skeleton a little bit. It's just the bare minimum for the original high tops, right? The new ones are so insulated and they're so well designed for the foot on the court. It's crazy.
Exactly.
All right, Tony. So this is round 3, the last round. Your first question. Did the Reebok pumps actually make guys jump higher?
Absolutely not. Okay, I'm Portuguese. I could barely do any of that stuff. So I bought the pumps, and if you try to buy pumps now, they're like $300. And do they make you jump higher? No. Your brain makes you think that because you just invested $300 into a shoe. The only use you get out of a pump is touching this. And you know what? You can do that by yourself without paying $300.
Mota?
I think no, they didn't. They didn't. Even though they used them in dunk contest, they used them in everything. No, they don't. I used to have them, and they didn't help in anything. Makes you jump higher is just work out, do squats, and that's it. But no shoe is going to help you dunk. The commercial, is it the shoes? That doesn't work.
Okay, and so this is our final question of In the Post this week, and I will throw it to Mota first. Why were the original black and white Jordan 1s banned by the NBA?
Oh, that was easy because it was basically you had to wear white sneakers because of the NBA uniform, and Nike just decided to try something new, and they actually paid for an entire week $5,000 and every game that Michael Jordan actually played with those sneakers. So yeah, it was mainly uniform.
You got it.
Man, it's crazy. These guys know way more about shoes than I could ever hope to know. I was just listening and I was like, wow. Like, I would have gotten 0 of those questions correct. Actually, after watching the All-Star game, I know I kind of brought this up last time. What do you guys think that the Chris Paul shoe has to do to get on your Mount Rushmore?
Be a better shoe.
It has no chance. It's just done.
CP3s are just terrible shoes. They're not. I don't know. It's just the biggest shoes right now are the Kobe's, the LeBrons, and the KDs. And I would go with the KDs and the Kobe's in terms of comfort and performance. The LeBrons right now are just too stiff. The LeBron 10s are really good if you want to play ball. That's for you, Phil. If you want to try to.
Well, as you said, there's no
start playing ball.
Me, so I'm just gonna.
Like we were talking about earlier, I'm not a fan of the LeBrons. I think they look like a transformer from the outside. And I think they're a little too much. And for me, I don't know about Mota, but for me, when I look at sneakers, I look at something that I can wear both on and off the court and be okay with it. I don't think you can wear the LeBrons when you go out with your friends and stuff. You look kind of like a douche sometimes. I'm not a fan of the KDs, not yet. There's not one. I do like the new Kobe's, but the one I'm really excited about is the Air Mags with the power laces from Back to the Future 2. Yeah. That's the sneaker I'm looking forward to.
Oh, nice.
Well, this is the part of the show where we usually say what's coming up in our world, be it an article written, something. So maybe we'll start. Mark, what's coming up with you this week?
2 things. Apparently, Jason Collins is about to sign with the Brooklyn Nets and possibly playing his first game against the Lakers tonight. So if so, that would be the first openly gay player in NBA history, so that's something to look out for. I wrote an article about it this summer. I'll put that back on our Facebook page, facebook.com/hoopslounge. And very, very proud to announce, for those of you who haven't heard yet, if you have NBA TV Canada, Phil and I will be guests on the show The Hangout this Friday, February 28th at 5 p.m. Eastern. If you don't have NBA TV Canada, we'll be putting the YouTube links later on, probably the day after, on our Facebook page, and we'll be representing all of our guys in studio there in Toronto. So it's a big day for all of us at Hoops Lounge.
Nice. Dan Mota, what's with you this week?
Just look up for some FIBA updates. There's a lot going on this week. They're preparing for this Spain. We're going to also be preparing for the Hangout a little bit. We're working also on a couple of new announcements. Just stay tuned on our Facebook page and Twitter handles. They're right there.
Very nice. and Tony, this is the time where we give our guests a little time to shout out for anything they want, be it hoops, personal, whatever. What do you want people to know is happening with you?
Well, I just want to thank you guys for letting me be on here. I remember when Mark first told me you guys were putting a show together. Look how far you guys have come in such a small time. So, it's paved with hard work, and you guys have showed up, so thanks for letting me be a part of it. But it's a big week for the Raptors. They have 3 games this week against Cleveland, Washington, and Orlando today. I've been a little nervous about the Raptors since the All-Star break, especially with Tyler Hansbrough coming back. I think it's thrown off a little bit of the team's chemistry. I think Chuck Hayes needs to see a little bit more time. So this is a big week for the Raptors. There's difference between going 4 games over 500 to 7 games. So they really need to make sure they're on point for the week.
Yeah.
Exactly, and showing that there's basketball love all over Montreal, all over Canada, and we want to keep bringing this to you guys, the Hoops Lounge fans out there. So, Mark, Mota, Tony, I want to thank you all for another fantastic show. It was a lot of fun, and we'll make sure to keep in touch and keep watching how the Raptors and all the other teams keep going forward into the playoffs. So as always, everyone, you can follow us on hoopslounge.com, catch all our stuff there, Hoops Lounge, Twitter, Facebook, everything in between. So we got you. So thanks for joining us. See you next time in the lounge.
See ya.
Peace.